Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, is Bitcoin bottoming out after the latest dump, or is the price about to continue this short-term bearish trend as this signal is indicating? Well, in just a moment, I'll be talking more about that alongside Ethereum now flashing a new signal in the short term that we need to pay attention to. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today, we need to talk about the Bitcoin news today because on Tuesday, we actually saw the Bitcoin ETF flows flip. That is right. We have finally seen a net inflow after a few weeks of almost constant net outflows. But with that being said, this net inflow that we saw on Tuesday into the spot Bitcoin ETFs was only a very small net inflow, relatively speaking, of around 31 million US dollars. But of course, seeing net inflows is still better than net outflows. So if we continue to see new net inflows rather than net outflows, then that is a good thing for Bitcoin. That is bullish for Bitcoin. And so this is potentially one of the reasons as to why on Tuesday we did not end up seeing the continuation of that short-term dump that we were seeing on Monday, for example, because once again, we did not end up seeing another massive net outflow on Tuesday. We saw that net inflow, even though it was relatively small. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today, looking at the 4-day time frame, and over the last 1 day, this chart right here has not really changed at all over the last 1 day. So if you're new to the channel and you want to know more about this chart and these indicators right here, then check out my last video here on the channel. And so if we're taking a look at this 3-day Bitcoin chart, what we are still seeing as of right now is the 3-day Bitcoin RSI trading below 50. So essentially sitting in the lower half of the RSI indicator. And historically speaking, anytime over the last couple of years or so, when the RSI on the 3-day time frame has gone below 50, so once again, into the lower half of the RSI indicator, historically speaking, these have been great buying opportunities to accumulate cheap Bitcoin after a pullback or short-term bearish trends before the eventual recovery later on. And now, of course, the moment we see the RSI drop below 50, that is not necessarily the moment that the price is bottoming out. Like, for example, we saw the RSI drop below 50 right here in around mid-August 2023, and then we saw a continued short-term pullback over the next couple of weeks. But basically, when we started to see that signal here in the 3-day Bitcoin RSI, that was the initial signal telling us that we're entering into a buying opportunity where we're about to see some cheaper Bitcoin, relatively speaking. But this is more of a longer term signal, a signal for the next few months potentially, not necessarily a signal just for the next few days. So just because the 3-day Bitcoin RSI is below 50, that does not necessarily mean that the next few days or the next week is guaranteed to be bullish. It does not mean that because once again, it is not a short term signal. It's more of a longer term signal on the longer term perspective here. And so even if the price dumps again in the short term or see some short term pumps, either way, looking at these previous examples, we have seen these short term dumps and short term pumps, but ultimately when we're zooming out, these have been great buying opportunities for the longer term. But as always, nothing that I say is personal financial advice for you because I don't know your personal financial situation. I'm just pointing out on the Bitcoin chart what has worked throughout history and what is the most likely scenario moving forward. And so simply based on this information right here, personally, I am actually dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin right now. So around these higher prices, I was not actually consistently accumulating Bitcoin. But of course, around this previous low, around $60,000 that we saw a couple of months ago, back then I did actually open a decent sized long position and longed that move to the upside and closed around 72,000 and 67,000. And once again, right now I am actually accumulating a little bit more Bitcoin as we speak, but just slowly dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin, not going all in at once. In case we do end up seeing any more short-term bearish price action, I'll still be able to take advantage of that opportunity. And also, personally, in my situation, I'm not using any leverage at the moment, so I'm not actually opening a long position, at least at the moment. I'm simply just accumulating some more Bitcoin on the spot market to hold for the longer term. And so by doing that, even if we see a continued short-term dump right here, even if we dump to some slightly lower prices, I would still be okay. It's not like I'll be liquidated because it's not a leveraged long position. It is simply spot Bitcoin that I'm holding for the longer term. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin chart, looking at the DXY, also known as the US dollar index, and as of right now, we're actually seeing another bullish move in the short term in the DXY to create a new higher high and also confirming the latest higher low in place, basically the continuation of the short-term bullish trend in the DXY. And if we're looking at this chart right here, we can very clearly see that almost any time where the DXY is trending in the bullish direction, that is almost always bearish for Bitcoin. And so once again, as I've been saying basically every day over the last 2 weeks or so, this is a bearish signal for the trend, or at least the short-term trend in the price of Bitcoin. And now you might be wondering, why am I even accumulating any Bitcoin if this signal right here is telling us that we're remaining within a short-term bearish trend here in the price of Bitcoin? And well, the reason is because when I'm accumulating spot Bitcoin, once again, as I said, I'm not going all in at once. I'm just slowly dollar cost averaging bit by bit. And so by doing that, I'm able to basically scoop up the low in the price of Bitcoin, whether the low is right here or if we see another dump. Either way, I'm just slowly accumulating to basically catch the entire low, most likely, once again, based on what we've seen in the past. And so by deploying that strategy, I do not actually have to be 100% accurate at trying to time the exact bottom and going all in at the exact bottom, because by doing that, you're very likely going to miss the bottom and end up a lot worse. And once again, I'm using spot Bitcoin, just dollar cost averaging bit by bit. I'm not using leverage. I'm not opening a major long position. So even if the price continues lower in the short term, in this short-term bearish trend, I would still be okay. It's not like I'm going to be liquidated on a major long position. And so essentially the strategy that I'm deploying right now, if the price continues a short-term dump, I'll still be okay. I'll still survive. And in fact, I'll just accumulate cheaper Bitcoin. But if we pump from here, then I'll also benefit from that strategy. And so essentially, I'm deploying a slightly different strategy for the price of Bitcoin as to what I was doing back here. If you remember just a couple of months ago, once again, I was accumulating a decent sized long position around a $300,000 Bitcoin long position around this previous low. And the reason why I was accumulating a long position, a leveraged long position back then, is because we had a lot more different confirmation signals all pointing in the bullish direction, like, for example, a breakdown here in the DXY, a bearish trend reversal in the DXY, which is bullish for Bitcoin. And so due to the fact that we had multiple bullish signals flashing on the charts back then, I was simply more confident in opening a major long position, a leveraged long position on the price of Bitcoin, trading that bullish move. But once again, this time around, the DXY is still trending in the bullish direction despite this signal flashing on the chart. And so this time around, I'm not as confident that this is actually the low. Once again, we could possibly sideways consolidate a little bit and then form a new lower low later on. That is a possibility. And so that's why I'm using a slightly different strategy this time around. Once again, just accumulating some Bitcoin dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin on the spot market using no leverage this time around, at least for now. And personally, when it comes to trading Bitcoin or any other crypto, whether I'm using leverage in a long or short position or just buying and selling on the spot market, personally, I basically do almost all of my trading over on Bybit. So I'll make sure to leave a link to Bybit down below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And in fact, if you use that link down below this video to make a Bybit account and deposit on that account, then you can get up to a $30,000 deposit bonus, but only if you use that link down below this video. And also, if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here, which is currently a massive lucky draw happening right now. And this is only happening just for the next 4 days, where you can win potentially up to $100,000. And so just by trading crypto on Bybit, which if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. And so once again, just by trading crypto on Bybit, you get these chances in this lucky draw where you could win up to $100,000 or a trip to an F1 race or free Bitcoin or Ethereum or a bunch of other prizes here. And so if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, first link down below this video. But for whatever reason, if you cannot access Bybit or if you cannot KYC on Bybit, there is also Bitflex, which is another crypto exchange similar to Bybit, but you don't need KYC for Bitflex. And so I'll also make sure to leave a link to Bitflex down below this video as an alternative crypto exchange. And with that being said, taking a look at this daily Bitcoin chart right here, and we can see that just in the short term, the price is continuing the short-term bounce exactly from this area of support, sitting in between around 60,000 to 61,000, which is right where where we saw the daily candle closes just recently at the local low. But if we were to actually see a confirmed break back below $60,000, then in that case, the next significant area of support here on the daily time frame is sitting in between around 56,500 to 58,000. And if we're taking a look at the daily Bitcoin RSI, just recently, only 1 to 2 days ago, this actually entered into oversold territories for the first time in many months. And historically speaking, when the daily Bitcoin RSI enters into oversold territories, that means that we're either getting very close to or have already just hit some sort of local low in the price, and we're due to see at least some sort of bounce or sideways consolidation in the shorter term, as in potentially over the next few days, most likely over the next week or so. And so, as I mentioned in my last video, at least this short-term dump right here, this is likely over just for now, not necessarily the end of the short-term bearish trend based on this signal alone, but just this part of the short-term bearish trend, this dump right here that we've seen over the last 1 week or so, it's very likely that this is over just for now, just for the next few days, maybe the next week. Once again, we're most likely going to see a bit of a relief from that short-term bearish trend just over the rest of this week as a most likely scenario. And what I mean by a relief from the bearish trend is essentially reduced bearish price action or momentum. So essentially either choppy sideways price action in this sideways price range, if not a little bit more of a bullish relief, a bit of a bounce to the upside, perhaps into this area of resistance, which is sitting in between around 63 to 64,000. And above that area of resistance, we also have a lot more resistance at 67 to 68,000 and a massive area of resistance in between 72,000 to 74,000. And personally, I would only start flipping much more bullish again in terms of the short-term trend and momentum if we first of all start seeing a breakout above around 64,000, but ideally back above 68,000, and also ideally seeing a bearish trend reversal in the DXY. So for example, if we're seeing more of a pullback and a bearish trend reversal in the DXY with lower lows and lower highs, and at the same time, if we're seeing breakouts in the price of Bitcoin with confirmation like daily candle closes back above these significant resistance levels, then under those circumstances, we can actually start flipping much more bullish again in the short term in terms of the trend and momentum. But at least for now, those bullish reversal signals have not actually confirmed, which means at least for now, we're technically still within a short-term bearish trend, just in the imminent short term, as in the next few days, maybe the next week, just in the much shorter term, we're most likely going to see a bit of a relief or a break from that short-term bearish trend. And as I've also said quite a lot here on the channel, during the week, on the weekdays, we're most likely going to see a decent amount of volatility. The volatile moves in the price of Bitcoin almost always play out on weekdays. And then over the weekends, which are shown by these areas on the chart right here, on the weekends, we usually see very low volatility, as we can see here in the past. Almost always over the weekends, we see very boring or flat price action. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we can see a decent amount of liquidity that is building only just above the current price of Bitcoin here in the short term. And a lot of that liquidity is starting at around 62,500 to 62.6K. And we also have more liquidity surrounding 63,000 and another significant area of liquidity at around 63.7K to 63.9K. And so that's why I said just earlier, there is actually a decent chance that we could end up seeing a bit more of a bounce perhaps into this area of resistance over the coming days, considering we have a decent amount of liquidity that the price is likely going to grab, especially around 63,000 give or take. And with that being said, taking a look at Ethereum on the daily time frame, and right now the price of ETH is still holding above this 50% retracement level, which is sitting at around 33.50 and acting as support. And below 33.50, we also have this golden pocket area of support sitting in between around 31.80 to 32.20. And just like Bitcoin, technically speaking, the short-term trend is still bearish. We have not actually confirmed any bullish trend reversal just in the short term here for the price of ETH. But with that being said, during this short-term bearish trend, we can see time periods where we have sideways consolidations, for example, or short-term bounces back to the upside during the bearish trend. And so just for the next couple of days, that is what I'm expecting in the short term, similar to what I said for Bitcoin. And if we're taking a look at this 12-hour time frame, we're also finding support at this Fibonacci level based on previous support and resistance as well, which is sitting at around 3.3k. And as for resistance, we do have a resistance at around 3450 and a significant area of resistance in the short term at this golden pocket area of resistance sitting in between 3.6k to 3650. And so in order to flip much more bullish again in terms of the trend and momentum here in the short term, we ideally need to see a confirmed breakout back above 3650, which at least for now has not happened. But if we're taking a look at this Ethereum chart here on the 8-hour time frame, what we have just seen over the last couple of days is the 8-hour Ethereum RSI just briefly brushed against oversold territories. We only just entered into oversold territories with the latest dump. But if we're simply taking a look at the last few times where the 8-hour Ethereum RSI entered into oversold territories, all of these previous examples occurred right around some sort of local low in the price. Not necessarily the bottom or the end of the bearish trend, but some sort of local low before a bit of a break or relief from the bearish trend. And so that's why I say just over the next few days, maybe over the next week or so, that sort of time frame, I'm expecting a bit of a break or relief from the bearish trend, but this signal by itself is not necessarily enough to confirm the bottom. And if we're taking a quick look at the price of Solana on the 12-hour time frame, right now the price of Solana is continuing that short-term bounce from this exact area of support that I've been talking about, sitting in between 120 to 128. And so once again, as I've been saying here on the channel for a long time now, we have a massive amount of buyers in between 120 to 128 that are supporting the price of Solana, as we saw back here. And as for short-term resistance, we still have this area sitting in between around 140 to 144, which we've just recently started to run into. But if we actually start seeing a confirmed breakout back above around 144 to 145, then in that case, we still have a significant level of resistance at around $160. And at least for now, we have not yet confirmed a bullish trend reversal here in the short term. So technically speaking, there's still the possibility that we see another rejection from this area of resistance and continue the short-term bearish trends. That is a possibility. So in order to flip much more bullish again in terms of the short-term trend and momentum, we first of all need to see a confirmed breakout back above around 144 to 145 and ideally back above 160 to become much more confident that we're actually flipping much more bullish again in terms of the short-term trend and momentum. But either way, whether you think this is the bottom for the short-term bearish trend or whether you think we're eventually going to see the continuation of the short-term bearish trend later on, either way, it's extremely likely that just for the next few days, maybe for the next week, give or take, we're most likely going to see a bit of a break or relief, basically a pause from the short-term bearish trend, whether it's in the form of a sideways consolidation with choppy sideways price action or a little bit more of a bullish relief. Either way, we're most likely going to see that play out just for the next few days here. But either way, if you want to trade these moves in the price of any crypto, once again, check out those links down below this video to claim those extra bonuses. And if you want to actually know how to trade crypto, no matter if the price is bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions. And the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.